What's up? What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon for those who are watching, and welcome to the Real Estate Power Play. We come to you every Tuesday, all right, and right around this time, so 11 o'clock Central Time, 12 Eastern Time, and we just want to be able to help you grow your business, grow. If you're a beginner or a novice and you're just learning about real estate investing, we want to help you grow and learn all of this. And I just had some people get out of my office. Let's go. What are y'all doing?
How you doing,
So,
Gabe?
Lord. So, guys, doing great, man. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing well, doing very well. Can't complain. Little toasty this summer, but everything is good so far.
Yes.
You guys didn't you guys get a little bit of the? I saw yesterday possibly rolling blackouts in Texas.
In Texas, I didn't get any, and we're supposed to also get rain. We didn't get any of that either. So it's just been really dry here. But the market's great. We're still moving and glowing and going. And the Houston market, those who don't know, I'm in the Houston metro. A lot of stuff that's all over from Galveston all the way up to Huntsville and, almost up to Dallas. So anyways, that's my market, guys. We have an awesome show today, guys. We have Ryan Dumas, who is basically going to just help us out understand a lot more of the commercial real estate investing world. He's a good friend of Mark's, and we're just going to ask him and pepper him with a bunch of questions. So as we go about what we ask our audience, and for those who are listening live right now, that if you guys have any questions, feel free, ask them. We'll be happy to answer them. If we don't have them, maybe Ryan has them. And if not, we'll direct you in the right direction because we just want to see you guys grow in your business. So that moving forward, Ryan, what's up, man? How you been? What's going on? How you been?
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah.
Call me Lord Ryan. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Lord
No,
Ryan.
I'm doing good, man. It's been hot over here in Clearwater, Florida, too. So I mean, I've been seeing mid 90s and hundreds, and it's hot like the market still is. So, but
Yeah.
doing great, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Ryan, so when did we meet? How many years ago? God, it's been a while.
I don't know. I mean, one of my first events, I was best ever conference in Rod Cleef. Did I meet you at either one of those? I don't remember, but
I did meet. I think I met you at the best ever conference. I believe that was out in Keystone, I believe.
Yeah, that was Keystone. That was crazy.
That was a good time.
Snowstorms and weather and everything.
Did you get stuck in that snowstorm?
I almost got stuck. We actually left the night before that, and me and a buddy of mine, Dylan from California, and went back to Denver because we knew that there was no rides at 4, 5, 6 in the morning to go into the airport.
I did the same thing. I actually had 2 hotels. I had the Keystone Hotel, and then I booked another one near the airport because it sounds like everybody got stuck there for a couple of days because that storm was coming in. But that was a great conference, by the way.
That was really awesome. Met Joe Fairless and Chris Salerno and just a lot of good people. That's when I was starting to get into it. I mean, Rod Cleef was one of my first events, but great event, great meetup, 2 different stages. I mean, it was awesome. It was.
I think I also met you at Adam's event, didn't I?
Yeah, we did. Okay, that's the other. I was going to say.
We met at that one. I think we also met at another event. Yeah, we met at a few events.
Okay, I knew we met at one, and we've been talking on Facebook and text and call forever, but it's been so crazy, because what I like to do is I like to meet people like in Facebook, and then all of a sudden go, hey, let's meet in person, Tampa, Clearwater convention conference. But it's great to show that face and everything. I knew we met once, maybe 2, 3 times. So
yeah, we have. What out of all the conferences, which one do you think is the best one that you enjoy?
I mean, I really like. I've been with Jake and Gino since November. I love theirs. Rod Cleef's are really good at networking. Raising money somewhat, I mean, was good. Too, it was a good thorough. It was on point. And then the best ever conference was a great networking, great 2 stages, and it had like residential assisted living. It had just different stuff there. So I like them all, but just kind of diverse and everything. But I love the small events that Jake and Gina puts on about the buy right, finance right, manage right, and their MM4s and 5 coming up. But so I mean, Jake and Gino is probably my favorite one now, but I like them all.
I have to get out there to that. I mean, I've talked to Gino several times, but we've never met in person yet. So I definitely got to reach out to meet him live. They do stuff right here in Orlando, so it's right in our backyard. But I think the best ever conference, the caliber of people there are just very, very high caliber. And then the other one that has really high caliber people is the one, and you should check out, that Gabe belongs to, and that's really high end caliber people.
What's that
Gabe,
called?
Which one is that you go to?
So Scott Shield?
I heard of them. Okay.
Yeah, Commercial Academy. It's a good group, dude. It's solid group. That's what's really helped me grow my commercial business. Um, Good format, good setup, and then the players that are there. I mean, obviously, you want to have newer people that are there. For those who don't know, we're just talking about different basically commercial events to belong to connect with, to network with, to help your business grow. And Commercial Academy has been one of the ones that's really moved the needle for me in a large way. A lot of great big players there to connect with. I mean, I still have contacts that are building out of there. You know, people are sending me stuff from like College Station, like to College Station. Hey, I got a deal over here. So they're really, everyone kind of stays in their lane and they're just help each other out, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
It was very
Is that
end.
it?
I mean, we went to the one in February, and what I got out of it is like they're dead on. I mean, they were talking in February, just start liquidating all their assets and start grabbing cash. And I mean,
Yeah.
they were dead on. Look where we're at and where we're going right now. So it's just, yeah, it was really, really high caliber. Hey, Ronnie, what's going on, man? I guess Ronnie's taking.
So we got Ronnie, we got Ken on there. All right, so let's get going, guys. So Ryan, what's the crux of your business? What's your background? We're talking real estate, commercial. What's where'd you come from?
So I'll kind of touch on a few different things because I'm in a few different areas, but I'm from Pennsylvania. Long story short, wife and 4 kids. I'm in Clearwater, Florida. I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time, but I am not putting any my money into restaurants and bars. They're up and down, left and right. Went into equipment financing about 9 years ago. Stayed in that for a few years. Got pretty good at it, and then I'm at the company I'm at now called GRP Capital.
Okay.
Was in Fort Myers till a few weeks ago. Now it's in Bonita Springs. Been with them for over 6 years doing commercial financing. Could be agency loans for apartments, bridge non recourse. Been doing SBA loans for about 6.5 years with them.
That's cool.
I think I have 2 or 3 SBA closings, a couple agency, a couple conventional, a little bit everywhere on the commercial financing side. And I'm also been investing for the past 3 years, working on the investing. When we're talking about different multifamily conferences and conventions that we go to, ones that are good for network and everything. But I've been actually in the investment side and invested in the last, I think, 4 or 5 months on 259 units myself right now, and looking to get into just investing into this next 2 years and just keep growing with syndications and getting some JV deals. And then I can touch on a few different things that I'm into with different industries as well.
That's sweet. So is a majority of the commercial is multifamily is what you're looking at?
Yes. I mean, we have 63 units in Naples. It's apartment complex, 92 unit apartment complex in San Antonio. And then we have a single family portfolio, in Charlotte. That is a pretty big value add, but it's only about 3.5 miles from downtown. It's a short hold, but our rents are $600 and the comps are $1,200 unrenovated and $1,450 renovated. So pretty good deal on that one. I was talking to Mark earlier about Javier and Daniel Galvin and my partner Madeline on that group.
Yeah, cool. That area is just booming up there. We'll talk afterwards, but like I mentioned, we got 145 units multifamily that we're going to be doing construction just outside of Charlotte as well. So that area is just exploding.
Yeah, and then just a few blocks away is where they're doing these new breweries and the whole towns are changing and everything. So it's just down the road, and they're adding a 300-unit multifamily a few blocks from where this is also Class A. So it's just going to make our area, go better.
Nice. What's causing it to boom up there? Do you know?
It's just there's a very big mix. I mean, some areas you'll see where it's like out in Odessa or whatever. It's just energy, it's oil. It's just an even amount of employers for IT and tech and everything, corporate jobs and everything. It's real close to the international airport. It's a lot of those things that I've learned in commercial financing where you want to be. A lot of tourism, a lot of concerts, convention. It's just everything in there. It's not just one demand.
And it's still affordable. I mean, you can drive like within 15, 20 minutes outside of Charlotte, the suburbs, and it's still affordable living in that market so far.
Yeah, I mean the prices are going up pretty high, but there's good walking there. There's a lot of restaurants and everything there, and it's just it's got great weather. So and you still get that. I'm in Florida. and I'm from Pennsylvania, so you get that seasons. I like the seasons, and you don't see it here. You definitely don't see it where Mark's at, but you
Right.
don't see those seasons. So yeah, North Carolina is where you still get the seasons there, and it's just a great place to visit, great place to live, great place to vacation. It's kind of like Florida, but there's a few more added values to it, and everything.
Nice. They call them halfbacks, right? They people from the Northeast, that's what they call the Carolinas, halfbacks. So people from the Northeast, Boston, New York, they move to Florida. They don't like the humidity. They move halfway back.
Yeah. Or you got the ones that don't make it all the way to Florida and they just stop in North Carolina and don't make it here.
That's right. Well, guys, let's get going on just ways that we can help out people. And I love this topic. I love going into commercial. I started off in single family, for those who don't know, and I just made my way over to the commercial world. And so, one of the things you mentioned, you just highlighted on what that I want to talk about is that when people look at commercial property, you're saying basically the path of progress. Like, what are things happening in the future? You just mentioned one sector of the economy, one community, basically one city. So when you're looking at this stuff, and you come from a finance position, right? When you're looking at people and their balances and where they're at and financing them and other ways that you're looking at just commercial real estate, how are you right now in this market? How are you and your team looking forward and saying, this is what kind of marketplace I want to pick out? Because I think that's one of the things people don't know in commercial is that you can go super, super wide, right? Like I like the light industrial storage facility. We have mobile home parks. Like I just like that type of stuff. I tend to go in that direction. But as you go through some of the stuff of what you've seen, how have you picked your markets and how have you picked, okay, look, we're just going to double down on multifamily?
I mean, we pick markets that have population growth and job growth. Sometimes people tend to one or the other, but then we're also finding off market properties that aren't being bidded by 3, 4 large companies and being overpriced. But we get our Texas, Arizona, and Southeast U.S., which is kind of the Sun Belt. I mean, I know the Sun Belt includes part of South California and some other areas, but we're pretty much Arizona, Texas, and the Southeast. Looking for landlord-friendly cities, growth. There's demand segmentations, like I said, again, close to international airports, and we're just looking where I see people like, hey, this town has 50,000 population, now it's 45. There's not much growth. I mean, it's so
Right.
look at value add, light value add, medium value add. So we want to find that what's the value in a few years, where's it at? Also, being in a recession, the beginning of it, how'd they do last recession? Did the businesses crash? I finance hotels, and you'll see more of a drop. Like a lot of the hotels in some areas that were more liberal, whatever it is, they're shutting down. They're like losing 60-70% business. Restaurants, clubs, bars, salons, where it may be, DC, Chicago, whatever those markets were, and it's bad. Some of those aren't even back to where they are. Florida, 2021 was actually better than 19 in a lot of places. So we look at
Right.
areas that are doing well and that are continuing to do well. It's all about location. We're not buying an asset, we're buying location, and then we're buying a good show with good bones in it and going from there. But a lot of things. Everybody's got their own things they look for. In Florida with insurance prices being high, and we try to look for flat roofs where we're at. But then some people are like, hey, in New Mexico, almost everything's a flat roof. But
Right.
we try to look at less expenses so we can maintain things, increase NOIs, and reduce those expenses.
I have a question. You mentioned something about looking at stuff and the recession. How are you guys changing your underwriting, looking at deals when you're actually underwriting now? Are you lowballing the offer a little bit more, like a certain percentage? Kind of give us a insight of how you guys are looking at that.
Well, there's a few different things. I mean, sometimes we're getting a better offer on it. We are also making sure the exit cap, and I mean, sometimes a little variation. Sometimes we'll make sure the exit cap is 150 to 200 basis points higher. But if we've got a good price on it, we may, look at 100 to 125 basis, cap, on the exit plan. But being very strategic on it. making sure that we're not going to say, hey, the rents are going to be a 300 increase, and it really is like 250. On our Naples deal, we were going to raise rents around 300, and we've already raised them 350, and nobody has left, and we need to renovate some of these units. So we're going to go to 425, and that was an agreement with the partners. Because so I mean, so yeah, that's I mean, there's a lot of different things that are going on with the market. We don't know when it's going to stop, but there's certain areas that are overflow from another area that may not increase, and it depends on where jobs go to and where jobs are lost at. If people can't get a job where they're at, they're not going to be living in that area if it's a far drive, or they can't work online. So we'll see how things change here.
No, that's good, Ryan. So you mentioned a couple type of lending that you do, right? And so and you also mentioned SBA and stuff like that. Or is that still going on pretty strong right now with some of the companies that you're seeing, that you're underwriting, that you're working with? Or is that something that's kind of like, I could see that changing in the next couple months or years?
So I'll touch on SBA. SBA, I do a lot of hotels and a lot of self-storage with it.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of those deals. Some of the deals aren't penciling in. If it was an asset that wasn't in a great area and their sale price is higher in 22 than it was in 19, and their revenues are lower now than previously, real hard to get it done. People are asking higher prices on things. Now, also, a lot of the SBA deals are variable. So the lender's looking at going, hey, it's going to be another 75 basis points in another week or two, another 50 in another 2 months, 50 more basis points in 2 months. That's 1.25% interest rate higher. Are they going to sustain that? Are they still going to meet debt service? So
Right.
The banks are looking at, because we've never, it's the last few years, it went down a little bit. It went down from 4.75 to 3.25, I believe, offhand. So we didn't have this where it's going up 0.75, up 0.5, up 0.5.
Right.
And a lot of these bridge lenders are, different story, different subject, but a lot of the bridge lenders are like, hey, we're stopping right now. We don't know where it's going to be. Some are running out of funds, I've heard, and then some are slowing it down because they don't know where to exit, because the bridge lenders look at where you're going to exit into Fannie, Freddie, and everything else. And if they don't know where those rates are going to be 5, 6, 7, 8% in a year or two, it's a little crazy.
Let's go right there. Let's dive into that. So those who don't know and who might be wanting to buy their first storage facility or whatever, help us understand more of what a bridge lending is and how that works, so that way they can put in perspective what you're talking about.
So, I mean, to touch on that, I mean, bridge, I do a lot of bridge lending on apartments.
Okay.
Self-storage, I'm actually telling people to go to a local bank so they can at least get it fixed, because there's no prepay. So I'll just touch on self-storage real quick. There's usually, if you're buying a product that's unstabilized, you're going to increase those rents, build onto it, add on to it, and it's mom and pop, and you're going to automate it, put cameras in there. If you're going to do it really short term, you should go to a local bank or a bridge lender. If you're not going to be refinancing that for at least 2 years, you can go into SBA at 10, 15, 20% down. But the bridge lending is a little tougher because they don't know what your rates are going to be when they exit. It used to be, okay, hey, we're giving you 6% rate, you'll exit and be 4.5% rate. Now it's, hey, rates are in a 5.25. Where is it going to be in that 12 to 24 month exit? 7, 8, 6%. Where's it at? So
Right.
it's really difficult for the lenders to even figure out where it's going to be and everything. So if you're experienced, you're like, hey,
and to qualify though, bridge is like an interim lender, right?
Yeah.
So you don't plan on being in a bridge for longer than 24 months, something like that, right?
Yeah. And
yeah, you're really.
Go ahead. A lot of these bridge lenders that are doing those 12 and 24 month, they don't want to be stuck with it for 36 and 48 month. And if you're not meeting a debt service to get out, there's gonna be a lot of foreclosed loans. I think a lot of these bridge lending in different industries, if it's in an area that's not doing well, or wasn't a really good operator, or they didn't plan a few extra exit plans in there, there's gonna be a few deals that are gonna be going south, and there's gonna be an opportunity to people like us or whoever else it is to pick up those deals from a bridge lender especially if they put down 25-30% down, you can get it for pennies in the dollar. But it's all about execution. But if people are looking at exiting out at a 5% rate in a year, 2 years, that's not going to happen. You got to make sure that if your investors, you're giving them a 7% pref and you're off by 300 basis points, it's going to reduce the bottom line on that by 3% or whatever it is.
And what's that 7% pref? Educate people a little bit on what that is.
I mean, 7% pref is, if you're stabilized and you're paying that pref, month to month or quarterly, that 7%, you're paying the investor that 7%. So, if it's $100,000 and you're paying them whatever 7% of that, so $7,000, you're paying that first. But if you go into a bridge loan and you're 300 basis points off, which is 3%, you're only going to be able to cover about 4% pref realistically, unless expenses changed or the rents increased a good bit. So
nice.
It's a big scenario. That's why it's good to get fixed right now, local bank on something. There are 3-year fixed on some SBA with the lender I have. So it's good to get in that fixed. SBA has a 5% prepay year 1, 3% year 2, and then a 1%. So after 2 years, you can refinance it out. So if your play is to do 12 months, just go to a local bank and have 4, 5, 6 local banks that do financing for self-storage or whatever that asset is. And then have another one where it's an exit plan. So if they're not going to refi you out at the higher loan, find another bank that'll refi it out 6 months or a year later.
Got it.
Some local banks want you to have 2 years experience. So make sure you're looking, how long do I have to have this asset to refinance it out? Asking them all these questions beforehand. And if they say, hey, if it's worth $1 million now and it's, you have it 6 months or a year and it's doubled in price or an extra $500,000, they see you as a successful operator anyways. But, you just got to talk to them because some banks are strict, like, hey, you have to have 2 years.
Nice. Right. So is the bridge loan pretty much the same thing as multifamily, and storage is kind of the same concept? Is that correct?
Pretty similar. Yeah. Pretty similar.
Nice.
Pretty similar. Sometimes you can get lower rates on those since it's self-storage and they're easy operated, less expenses and everything, but really depends.
Nice. We're going to definitely stay on this topic a little bit more, diving into the commercial funding, but somebody has a question here. Gabe, you want to go ahead and read that?
Yeah. Jumping on midway. This is from Jose. He's hopped on a couple times before. But I would like to know how to go about funding to buy a funeral home. All right. So there we go. We got basically a business that someone basically wants to buy. Have you ever done lending on that type of stuff or seen that type of stuff, Ryan?
I have not done lending on a funeral home, but maybe it might be something that if it's not doing well, go to a hard money lender. But if it's locally to where you live or a partner lives, I would definitely, hit up a local bank, and it'd probably be around 20 to 25% down on something like that. But where's the experience? Are you leasing it out to somebody? Are you owning it? It's one of those things that, being a banker, we ask, we see risk. So if they're,
that's a good question to ask though, is like how you see risk. Like for instance, in multifamily, a lot of people don't know that you basically, you want to have people on your team that understand multifamily, right? And so you need a sponsor to some degree, right? Whenever you're doing multifamily and you're looking at bank financing, banks want to know who's going to be managing the property, who's, as they're a partner or part of the GP. It's not just a bunch of young people who, when I say young, relatively new to multifamily. So how do you look at that, and how would you advise someone who's newer to look for sponsorship?
Well, I mean, just like that asset with the place he was talking about right there. I mean, are you operating that just like a multifamily? It's a little bit different because you can get a third-party management company to run it, but you have to manage that third-party management company also. So,
right.
And that's why a lot of these lenders is to get into it. Say you're getting 100 unit, whatever it is. If you've only managed some quads and eights, it's a big different story. It's a big difference. They usually want you to into a 24 or 48 unit. So you want a partner that's done a 40 unit, a 60, 80 unit, or 100 units to run that property. If you don't know asset management, it's different than just operating or running a quad or a duplex.
Right.
Somebody that knows financing background. Sometimes it could be 4 partners total. Sometimes it could be 2 or even more. but just learning the other aspects, or if you don't know the aspects, having a partner that does know them. But it's very important, and it's really important to on these multifamily these days to have a partner that's pretty close, within an hour or 2 hours of that asset. So it's Florida, South Carolina, you're buying some North Carolina. A lot of those local banks, non-agency, a lot of those local banks are going to want somebody within a couple of hours from there.
Right.
So boots in the ground, whatever it is, somebody that's signing on it. But
and local banks also mean credit unions too, right? So for those who don't know, credit unions are also lending on a lot of this stuff. And I know over here in in my neck of the woods, North Houston, whenever we're doing stuff that's rural, you're going to want to have a bank or a credit union, right? That's local, that understands this area. Oh yeah, this is a great investment. Or you have 100 acres here. Yes, man, that area. Wow. How'd you get that deal? Good job, Ryan. Let me lend you on this or lend to you on this stuff. Right. And so that's one of the major key factors that I've noticed in getting involved in just commercial is just having that availability to talk to a banker. Right. I didn't even know this in the beginning. Right.
It is. I mean, so I came right into commercial. I didn't go residential. I didn't know anything about residential. And I got Jake and Gino coaching program, and I'm like, okay, credit union, bank, whatever you call it, like community bank. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's community bank.
What is that? Not Chase Bank?
Yeah, not Chase. I mean, not your Wells Fargo's. You don't have an 840 credit score. Okay, we can't do this. Why didn't you tell me 2 months ago?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain banks, but even the small little, local banks that might not be community, but community, local banks, credit union, whatever they're called. But if you look under community, sometimes it has credit unions in there, sometimes it won't, but they're supposedly different. But community banks are really good. I'm finding some of these community banks are doing a 25 and 30 year amortization. Sometimes they're doing 15 and 20 year fixed, which is crazy.
Wow.
I have a deal with somebody else who's on like 30 year amortization, 25 year fixed, 2-year interest only, and then 23 year fixed after that, because it's 25 year total. I'm like, wow, that's crazy terms.
Wow.
That's like a mix of a bridge lender and a
right.
agency lender all in one.
All in house. Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, can they refinance you out afterwards? No. But so I mean, but I mean, they needed a certain net worth on there. And there's always things that a bank wants. But those banks that had that deal as a multifamily, they love multifamily. So you find out what your bank, hey, what's your appetite? They all have their portfolios of,
right,
multi, retail, hotel, hospitality, and everything. Find out what they like. If they're like, we love self-storage, and you're going there for multifamily and they're not giving you the best, they're giving you a 20-year amortization and 3 or 4 year fix, whatever it is, you might want to try some other banks.
So if somebody's new, who would they contact at that community bank?
The vice president of commercial financing.
Nice.
I mean, and whatever you have, I'd be like, oh, I called the bank and asked them this. I'm like, were you talking to, one of the tellers? Who are you talking to? You need to go right to the vice president. And it depends how big they are. There can be numerous vice presidents, but vice president of commercial lending, and meet with them, go there with them. Hey, do you finance hotels? Do you finance multifamily? What's your appetite on those? Are you full on your bucket of your portfolio of those? Because sometimes before COVID, a lot of these banks were full, but then a lot of banks didn't lend on hotels and everything else. So then their buckets were pretty empty. So this last year, but I think people are starting to get full again on some of their portfolio. I've had some banks like, hey, we're full on multifamily.
So explain that, because I'm very familiar with this part. Because I've actually had quite a few banks tell me this. But for those who don't know, what does full mean? Whenever you say stuff like that, you're talking to a bank and you're getting in there and you're sharing information. You talk to the VP. Help us understand what that means.
Well, I mean, just realistically, just say they have 5 buckets and their investments is $100 million. They're going to have $20 million tranches. So if they have $20 million of multifamily loans out, and they're maxed out, they might say, hey, wait till we have one that's ballooning in a month, whatever it is. They might say, hey, we're ballooning that out, we're not doing any more hotel, or we know you very well, we'll do yours again, or whatever it is. But they have their certain tranches. If it's 20 million, whatever it is, and every bank is different where they have it. They're pretty diverse, but other banks, sometimes they'll have like a 40% of their portfolio is multifamily and self-storage. Usually hotels and restaurants and clubs and bars are the smaller piece. But if you may be in New Orleans or somewhere else where there's a lot of entertainment, restaurants, Miami, something like that, they might have a bigger portfolio if they have certain investors that are into it. But it's buckets of where their investments go to. And some banks keep their loans in-house, and then some banks sell it off.
Sell them. Yeah.
Not to dig too deep into that, the lenders that keep it can be more lenient. And so you say, hey, how can you do 15-year fix? We're keeping the note ourselves. We don't really care,
right?
Because they're selling it, and 2 years later, the rates go up 10% rate, 9% rate. It's not good for that investor that has it. And if the loan there's 4%, they're not making much money on that.
So I have a question here. Why don't dive a little bit in, kind of like helping people out a little bit if they need to go get some, commercial funding. Like, what are some of the things that you see that people run into issues that they didn't have, like say they didn't fill out some of the paperwork right, or they didn't have some bank accounts, or they didn't have investors lined up, like something that you see over and over, that you see a lot of times people have issues that are fairly new on trying to get commercial funding.
Well, I'll start with one thing. Say you're doing self-storage or a hotel, whatever it may be, and you're like, hey, I got local bank, I got fixed. I'm like, okay, cool. What's your problem? Why you come back with me on financing now? Like, well, we need 200,000 renovation. And I'm like, okay, so did you ask your bank? Sometimes it's yes. They wouldn't give it to us, or no. Okay, so what's your plan on this? Because if you get a first position, that bank has it. Sometimes an SBA variable rate is better because they include the renovation.
Oh,
and
sweet.
I don't mean to be specific on it, but self-storage, you might need a $50,000, $100,000 renovation. And if you don't have it in your bank, your LPs, your limited partners that invested with your company don't have it, and you didn't have extra reserve there, and you're supposed to value add this place and make it look better, that's the business plan didn't get met. And I see that all the time. Oh, I need $300,000 to improve this hotel or self-storage. I'm like, so, I mean, that's really big, because I think on that deal, if you go ahead and get your conventional, I don't care if it's fixed at 4.5%, and now you're having to borrow it from a working capital lender, whatever kind of hard money, or that, now you're at 10, 12%. And sometimes they're a 5-year amortization with a financing company. So I was like, well, we talked about getting SBA for you. It's like, oh yeah, it was a variable rate at 5.25% with the prime plus 1.5. I'm like, okay, cool. But now you're going to have to go out and get 10, 12% at a short amortization. It's going to kill your cash flow. And then what happens is they have a conventional equipment finance, working capital. I see their debt schedule. I'm like, wow. And I didn't finance it. And then he's like, what do you want to do now? It's a year, 2 years later, he's like, well, my payments are so high and everything else. Can you get me into SBA? And I'm like, you should have started off with SBA.
Right.
Low money down. Got into, and then 2 years later, 3 years later, went into the conventional local bank or whatever it was, or national lending, and got in there. Now you went from a fixed rate and then a 10% rate on your equipment finance, working capital loans, and now you're back to the variable rate. So you're adding a whole step in there. So that's one thing that I see happen a lot.
Wow. That's huge. And just to pick that apart for a second is to help people understand that, like, I'm about to do, I got a single family that just came across my table, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll buy it. So it's worth $250. I'm getting it for $160. Okay. By the time I get done with everything, but I'm like, okay, well, if I pull out money on this thing, where would I be? How much do I need to pull out? And I tell my team, I'm like, just pull out as much as we can and put it on the property. And then well, man, that's going to be $185,000. We don't really need 185. I was like, just pull it out. Eventually we'll need it. Why don't you just grab it? The property is going to pay for itself. It's going to rent it for itself. It takes care of everything. And it'll be in a portfolio that's bunched together with a bunch of other single family. So if I need a new AC unit over here and, property number 10, and this is property 11, property 11's, the money that I pull out, I could just go put it over there. So I don't use all of the repair for that one house, but I could use it for something else, and it's still cash flowing. Everything's still moving forward. I don't have any big dents in my pocket. And what's interesting about this that you're saying that I think people miss out is that the property's still cash flowing. it's still paying for its debts, right? It's still making its money. And so that's one of the coolest parts about real estate. Like I was this morning while I was just kind of getting prepared for the day and stuff. And I'm like, man, we just pulled out money and we moved this stuff around. And I'm like, and everything's cash flowing. Like it's just, you can't collapse time in any other place besides that I know of than in real estate in this matter, where you could pull out money and the asset's taking care of itself. And someone was telling me yesterday, but you still have debts. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have debts. Like I have debts on these properties. Man, well, how can you say that you're free in these areas? And I'm like, because the properties are taking care of all the debts, right?
And I see that. I'm seeing that a lot now. So if our prices are up here and you could have pulled out some money and still service debt in this next year or two, you're going to find some assets that people can't control, didn't buy at a good price, whatever it may be, that you can find some good deals right now, I think too. So I think also I heard somebody in a mastermind recently, not my mastermind, somebody else was in a mastermind, and they heard if you have a credit line from a bank that's, hey, $200,000 on property A, or we'll give you working capital this month, pull that out so that you have it and put it in another bank so it's safe. Because a lot of these banks, when rates start going to 7, 8, 9% or whatever it is, they're going to freeze that credit line. Oh, you don't have that anymore, Gabe. I know we were going to give you
Man, we just talked about this. This is so true.
And if you're a good buyer, you know, Mark, Gabe, you guys are good buyers, pull that money out and put it in our bank. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was thinking just pull the credit line and put it in that bank. But they might say, hey, you know, you're over leveraged. You had this sitting here. We changed our mind. So that's really good. I mean, I did hear little pieces from everybody that I try to write down. Writing down some notes now while I was listening, but I'm always writing notes down. I'm always listening. I got people that go to these conferences, conventions, and don't listen, don't write anything down at all. And I'm like, man, did you hear what he said? You just had a problem with that last week, whatever it is. That's the answer to your problem.
Yeah, man. But,
that's so Ryan, is king right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Like Ryan, I've heard so many good, solid business owners that are like, look, stash your cash now, and you know things are gonna hit. You know, like you just said, the rates keep going up, even if it just stays there for 2 years. That's an amount of time that people can't service some of their commercial properties.
Yeah, and then you guys said, like, I'm not going to refinance right now, cash out, because the rate's 5.5%. I'm like, okay, so you're going to wait till it's 8 or 9 or 10 when you're going to refinance? Because I don't think rates are going to go back down to 3.2, 3.4 again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But once I talked to somebody, I'm like, hey, you know, I mean, if you're wanting to buy and you have these apartments, they're valued at $2 million. I'm like, listen, don't over leverage. Don't take out 80% loan to value. Just go 60. Go 60. You're still covering your debt. Makes sense. You know, take out $1.2 million. Okay, now this is 4 months ago. Now, like, okay, well, I still haven't refinanced it. What should I do? I'm like, okay, well, rates now are almost 2% higher. So it's less proceeds you're going to get now. Well, we see some properties you want. What do you suggest? Well, I suggest that you should have, and I hate to say it, you know, cashed out then, or I would still cash out now. I would cash out now, whatever it is.
If they're good assets, I mean, with the way that we see things moving, they're going to move forward. We do have some questions towards that, though, that deal. Josh Dees, our good old boy, Josh Dees. He said, which loan product is the one that you use for multifamily real estate?
No, I mean, I do agency loans, and they'll do.
What is that?
So agency is Fannie Freddie product. It's $1 million loan. So it has to meet that criteria. There's also local banks. They'll give you some cash out. Every bank's different. They'll give you 50, 100, 200,000 cash out. If you really want to cash out, you don't owe anything on the property, and it's worth $2 million. You're trying to get $1.6 million out. The local bank is probably not giving you $1.6 million, but an agency lender will. Up to 80%. They are being a little more strict lately since, you know, getting ready to go into recession, rates going up. They're going at 70 to 75% on the cash outs. But those are really good on cash outs. And there's more to it. If you're, say you got a $2 million loan, you got to be within 90% to 100% net worth of that loan. Some other covenants in there as well. But local banks are good. So if it's a $300,000-$400,000 cash out, try the local bank. They're on 5-year terms on most of them. Some are more. But agency will get you into a 10-year fixed, even a 12-year fixed, which is 2-year IO, interest only, and then 10 years immediately after that fixed, and they'll set that fixed rate in there
That's
now.
actually pretty good.
And it's a 30-year amortization, so you got pretty good cash flow.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to dive a little bit deeper on that. So, and then Josh also asked about the SBA part of it too. So if you're doing a value add, are you going out there doing SBA first, or are you just going to agency? Kind of go into it and like what kind of percentage you have
product?
to put down?
No, multifamily.
Yeah, let's talk about multifamily.
So I've never done SBA on multifamily at all because it's got to be 51% or more owner operated. I heard somebody did a 504 in an apartment complex, but I've never done SBA on multifamily. So, I mean, yeah, small business administration, and it means 51% or more owner operated, which usually it's gas stations and hotels, motels. It could be other small business restaurants and everything else. But
so if you're going to be doing a multifamily value add, right? That just kind of run through this scenario a little bit, like say your purchase price, then how much capital you doing a value add, and how much money do you have to get from private investors versus your agency loan? Kind of go through that a little bit and break that down a little bit.
So about before the rates started going up, almost everybody was going to a bridge loan, and all bridge lenders are different. And I mean, I touch on it, but bridge lenders are going to be 70 to 80% loan to value, and you got to increase that somewhere between 25 and 35% to cash that back out as an agency loan. Usually it's 12 months later, or it could be 2 years later. Right now, with the rates going up so much, people switch from a bridge loan, depending on how big the deal is. If you're doing a $20 million deal, you're sticking with the bridge loan. But if you're doing the $2, $3, $5 million deal, $1 million deals, a lot of people are switching over, and I think it's a good idea too, to go to a local bank, a community bank, credit union, whatever that is. Don't just try one bank, call 5, 10, like Mark said earlier, call the vice president of commercial lending and ask them, hey, do you do bridge loans on a multifamily apartment complex, 16 unit? It's a $1 million purchase price, $300,000 renovation. Oh, we can't give you the renovation money. Try other ones. If you tried 5, 10, 15 banks in the local area, then you go to that bridge loan, because your local banks can be 4.5% to 5.5% rate. And they'll usually fix that 25 year amortization. The bridge lenders are going to be in that lower million to up mark. They were in the about 4.5%, 5% rate. Now they're in that 6 to 7% rate now. So if you can be fixed in that 4.5 to 5, it's much better than the bridge loan. Plus, a local bank will just give you a credit line usually, so it's easy to get that money. A bridge loan, they're going to say, "Hey, where's your GC at now? When are you ready for that next 50,000, 100,000?" There's more of a process to that. So, but people are getting the bridge loans for like $6 million. And they need like $1 million renovation. Most of the local banks aren't giving that much renovation money.
Got it. Right? So what do they have to come up to the table? Roughly about 20% down if they're going to be doing a value add play. Is that what you usually predicting?
Usually it's a 70. It was 80% loan to cost, LTC, for the whole amount. So if you have a $4 million project, $1 million renovation, it's going to be about 25 to 30% of that. If you're in a good, hot area, Dallas, Atlanta, you can do an 80% loan to cost. So 20% down of the purchase price and the renovation. And they'll start giving you draws of that renovation money. And they're going to ask you, hey, you need $1 million renovation. How are you using that? How often are you going to be spending it? And one thing that's good right now, the supply is going up, is trying to spend more of it up front so you can get them supplies now instead of waiting 2, 3, 4 months down the road. And it's taking you 3, 6 months longer to get those supplies, and the cost increasing on those as well.
Got it. And that 20% or 25% that they have to come to the table, how does that come out? Like, how is that being structured? How is that all coming together, if that makes sense? Like how, LP, kind of explain that a little bit.
I mean, it's really different. I mean, if we had a deal right here and it's, 33, 33, 33, the three of us, we would just put in our percent, divvied out. But if it was Mark and Gabe on a deal and they're general partners, I could be putting all the money in, or I could be putting a good bit of the money. A lot of the bridge lenders and the bridge non-recourse lenders that are 1 million up and the agency, they usually want the GPs to be putting 10% skin in the game. But again, everybody's different. So, but to touch on that, it's different, but sometimes you get the GPs we put in 10%, and then the LP, the passive investors, are putting a good bit up front of the down payment down, and then whatever it is, a year, 2 years, 3 years later, when they go to refi or sell, they're getting the majority or all those proceeds, or more than all those proceeds back in that deal.
Very nice. Very nice. No, this is great information. If anybody's got any questions, definitely.
This is crazy good, man. Like I love this stuff. I have a question for you. What do you see? Yes, I put your contact stuff on there, Ryan, so that way people at least connect with your Facebook page and see what you're doing there, and be able to connect with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. And there's so many scenarios. So sometimes I pause because I'll do 20 hotels in a year. And it's like, even if 10 of them are SBA, we went with 4 or 5 different lenders on them, or they're like, hey, what do I do about this? I'm like, well, do you have a renovation? What are your comps at? Where are you at? What brand is it? I mean, there's a lot that plays into hotels, because somebody will say, hey, Days Inn's doing this. And it's like all truckers. I'm like, well, how much is a roadway? Oh, roadways are killing it, but there's none on this exit. I'm like, so I mean, in hotels, it's actually, I mean, it can be easier, it can be harder, but multifamily, you get 12-month leases, you sign them up, and you make sure that asset management's there. They're taking care of the management company, everything. In hotels, it's every day, every week, every month. It's different. If it's, something happens in the area, the exit ramp shuts off and everything.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, Temple, Texas I did a couple of financing over there with hotels, and it's sometimes they're so hard. It's like multifamily, you don't see too many incidents, but in the underwriting, they're like, how come you went from 600,000 revenue to 400 2 years in a row? Oh, the exit ramp. And it's funny because when I look at the STAR report, it's called Smith Travel Report, STR. You can look at the comps, kind of like CoStar and everything. And I'm like, everybody's RevPAR was down those 2 years. It shows you your T12, your 1, 2, and your 3 year of 12 months at a time. And I look at them like they're all like that. And people would tell me the same story. So we found out that it was the 2 exit ramps closed down, and they were going to fix it for about 6 months. Ended up being 2 years. I think they did some kind of
how do these places hold that long? And just, I see some of this stuff. I mean, even businesses, and I mean, I can imagine these exit ramps can just destroy a business or just commerce in that area.
It is. Look at restaurants and see how they last. See people that, stress out. What happened? Oh, I retired for 10 years, the restaurant industry. I mean, it's up and down. That's why, again, with investing into multifamily, do you really want to? I have people that are running restaurants that are making 2, 3, 500,000 a year. It's like, here's 50,000 to invest. Here's 100. Here's 200K. They're stressed out of their restaurant. Every day is different. I mean, and then even worse, a club or whatever else it is. And if you're like, hey, there's 3 or 4 restaurants in this corner, all of a sudden now in New Orleans, I mean, it's very competitive. If you're not 4.8 star, 4.7 out of 5 star, you're not going to be there the next year later. So it's survival of the fittest. So you really got to be good at what you do. And that's why, again, on the financing side, if you're like, hey, we're going to buy this restaurant. Okay, what's the demand there? Oh, we're going to have some chef run it. Have you ever cooked? No. Are you a chef? No. What if that chef leaves? Oh, he's always going to stay. I'm like, and that's that risk thing again.
Right.
I don't want to invest in something that I'm going to have to go cook, or I'm going to have to find another chef that comes in there, because if that chef's awesome and he's like, hey, I'm going to open my own restaurant. I'm giving Ryan, I'm only making 100,000 a year and he's making 400K on the restaurant. I'll do my own. And it's just a lot of risk in there. So, but yeah, I like multifamily because it's a little easier when you have a good partners, good relationship, good experience, and a great location.
I have a question about, you mentioned something about like just showing your net worth and stuff like this, and just, making sure that you're backable by the bank. And I think this is a great question that no one really understands. Right. And so people come to you. I don't know what level of experience did they come to you as. And I was just looking at before the show, like how many people we have in common. And I'm like, oh, we have like quite a few people in common. So somehow we know everybody, right? And within our little groups. And but most of them, in my experience, from me being around them and kind of just going through, they're at a certain level of experience of doing some commercial, or they have 60 doors, 150 doors of single family. They have other assets that help them along. What is How would you suggest people that are wanting to get involved in commercial? Like you said, you jumped into it, but you need a net worth to be bankable, right? You want to look good to banks. How would you suggest them go about doing this? I mean, this is kind of their first go. Maybe they don't have a multifamily. Maybe they have a 24 or 48 that they're looking at buying, or 60. How would they go about doing this if they don't have either the experience, or they just don't have the net worth? They might have a great W-2.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things. I mean, I have people that hey, I have $1 million. I want to invest and get this 25 unit or 40 unit. I'm like, have you ever managed or owned an apartment? No. You know what management companies you're going to get? No. I mean, and I'm like, first thing I do is get in these Facebook groups, get into, mastermind. You don't have to spend 20, 40, $50,000 a year. I'm in deal room. It's $247 a month. Call people up that, hey, who's doing multifamily? Who's investing into Charleston, South Carolina? Who's in Clearwater, Florida, where I'm buying at? I live over here. Getting a coach, I'm with Jake and Gino coaching program. And like, I first joined, like, so where's your target markets? I'm like, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. And he's like, so what do you know about the insurance in this city? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, you need to know a city close to you. You can always have co-GPs or JV where Gabe or where Mark is, but hopefully you know those locations very well. But yeah, it's plugging into those groups, going to the conferences and conventions that, if you can't raise capital and your goal is to raise capital, go to these capital raising events, go to the masterminds that talk about raising capital. Don't go to a Airbnb event if you're not going to buy Airbnbs.
Right.
I have people that are looking at self and storage and they're like, they're always looking for apartments. I'm like, well, why don't you go to some multifamily events? So look at what you're going to go into and find who is in that space and add them on Facebook. I've had 5,000 people on Facebook for 4 or 5 years. I'm juggling around who I get rid of now that I haven't talked to in a while.
Right.
Just to go back on that, it's when I got into hotel financing, I'm like, who do I do? I'm like, I'm going to find every Patel, every Indian hotel owner, every hotel owner that says manager owner on Facebook, and just add them. So it's being in the groups on Facebook, social media, LinkedIn, that surround yourselves around the people that the business you're getting into, and asking questions, and also being in these groups going, hey, I have capital. I just don't know how to run a business, but I see something for sale where I'm at. Hey, anybody, can help me out. I'm really good at asset management. I can't raise $1. Who can raise money on this? But asking questions and then telling people what you're good at, and finding other teammates that are good at what you're not good at, if that makes sense, and have them same goals of where you want to go, where they want to go, so you guys can push each other. You don't want somebody that's stagnant that just wants to sit on 4 units, and you have a goal of making, X amount of dollars going into, I want to be 100 units. And somebody's like, hey, I just want to get 4 or 6 units and sit back. That might not be the right person. So just finding people with the same goals as you have, and different mentality or different mindsets of what they're doing. There's a few different things. You're either raising capital, asset management, underwriting, finding the deal. Don't know if I missed anything in there, but if you're trying to do all those things, which I go to these masterminds and events, like, oh, I'm trying to do all that, but I'm not good at underwriting and this and that. I'm like, I've been looking for an asset for 3 years. I'm like, have you ever underwritten a deal? No, I just throw out a price. Have you ever toured a property? No. So you have to be doing all these things. And that's one thing that a mastermind will teach you, a good one. And you don't have to spend 30, 50 grand to them. And if you're getting into a mastermind or going to a conference convention, ask others that went to it. Not just, one person went to this multifamily thing that spent $50,000. And, if they're a doctor and they just want to find something to invest in, they might do that. But find out about these conferences, conventions, get in the Facebook groups, and really put in the work.
It's great stuff. Very good. So Ryan, to the podcast listeners, I know we put it in the on the YouTube here live, but how would people reach you? People listening to us right now on one of the podcasts.
I mean, I'm in Clearwater, Florida. I mean, you can text me at the 727-729-2647. I usually have about a day or 2 days ahead, full on calls. So I'll see somebody just calls me and says, hey, but give me a text. You can call me too, but give me a text and say, hey, when can we talk about I'm buying a self-storage or investing or whatever it may be. or you can just email me at my investment one on is Ryan, RYAN, at kingdomcre.us. So it's KINGDOMCRE.us. But any questions, I mean, just reach out to me about investing, financing. I'm learning every day. It's be like, oh, you have 259 units. I'm like, yes, but there's people that have 20 units that cash flow better than me. So, but ask people that have advice of what you've done. If they're asking about how asset management's been the last 2 years, I'm like, I can't tell you. I've only had them for 3 or 4 months. But being on those weekly calls with our partners is awesome. Getting a really good experienced team. If you're new and you have somebody else that's new into it, or 4 partners and you're all new, make sure that it's going to work, because a lot of teams I have partnered with, or other people have come to me with financing, then they didn't raise the money, or they're not underwriting the deal. But it's always good to work with somebody that is experienced and that has closed a deal or a few deals, to work with them and then branch off on your own or branch off into other partnerships. But, I could talk about SBA agency, investing, and first couple of deals I got an investing side too. I failed at. So, I mean, it's good to fail. It's good to, try and see if you can do it. I have people that just never try, never,
Oh yeah.
action, never send an LOI out, never try to close a deal.
This is good. Mark, you have any more questions for him?
No, this is perfect. Great timing.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully
a few things, because we're talking about, a few different things, but I mean, if you're looking to sell storage, find a mastermind in self-storage, find people that are in the self-storage market, just be into that asset and focus on one thing at a time. I'm investing in a few different things, but I find somebody that's really good at self-storage or really good at mobile home. I'm not going to go ahead and learn it and start switching back and forth, but really focus on something. One biggest thing that I've had is mindset too. And I mean, Mark's probably seen I've been going to the gym a lot, but I haven't been eating good. So I haven't been losing the weight. So, I mean, it's, if you're like, oh, you're going to the gym, you're doing this. I'm like, yes, but I had pizza last night. I had a Twix bar before that. I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
What are you there? Like at 5 o'clock in the morning?
I get up at 5:55. I was listening to Mark Evans' DM, and I forget what the one book's called, but it gets up at 5:55 a.m. and I'm getting there at the gym before the sun gets up. And I jumped off a snowmobile a little over a year ago and broke my tibia plateau. So there was 3-4 months I didn't walk at all. So I lost weight, didn't want to go to the bathroom, didn't want to eat and everything else. And then sitting out being lazy, I gained a lot of weight, but, and then very busy in real estate. And what do you do when you're busy? You either not eat, or you eat quick drive-through food and bad stuff, and then have a couple of drinks at night. And I like old fashions, and they have simple syrup in them, so it's all sugar. Right. But yeah, just working on my spiritual side, working on my health, and not just focusing on money and units and properties and everything else. Because I think if you focus on your mind, your body, your soul, and all those things, and work on yourself, I follow Ed Millett, Eric Thomas. So it's not just multifamily, just hotel, just investing. It's about yourself, finding yourself and being a better you, a healthier version of you, which I'm still working on. It's hard, but the more work you do, then look ahead a year, writing those goals down, writing how many calories. You're like, wow, I was this amount of weight. Wow, I made 50,000 last year. I made 150 this year. Or wow, I had 2 quads. Now I have a 100 unit and 4 quads now. And I'm like, so I mean, you just writing those goals down, and then also breaking down how you're going to get to them, and congratulate yourselves on, hey, I bought a single family house. I bought an Airbnb short-term rental, but it's all those things in there, not just, hey, I have 259 units and 57 assets under management, because like I said, it's, getting your goals. And also, again, it's me. I want to be able to have time with my wife and 4 kids and to travel. Hey, let's go to a cabin for 2 weeks. Hey, let's go to Europe for a month. And the more I see it, the more I'm seeing Mark. I'm seeing everybody else. Oh, he was in Italy for 2 weeks. Oh, he was in France for 3 weeks. You'll see a lot of people that are taking action and closing on deals and everything that are doing those things. I mean,
absolutely. And the time there's no other business. Like there's other businesses that I look at, but in my space, there hasn't been a business in my world where you can really you can take that time, still do work, if you have to. The kids are out playing or your family's growing, you have the great memory and you're like, hey, look, I need to take half a day or I need to take 2 half days of work and then I'll hang out with you guys later this afternoon. But you're in a different state. You're different. You're not in your own house. You're doing something else. You're traveling. You're doing these other things. I just love this business. I love being able to do that because you're just going, look, I could run some numbers at that time. You could underwrite from afar. Most of it's from afar anyways. Right.
Yeah.
And there's very limited time that you're actually spending on the property or when you're on the property and so there's so many cool parts of it, man. Guys, if you want to get a hold of him, get a hold of Ryan. Obviously he knows a lot of people. He loves contacting, networking. He knows people. If he doesn't have the answer, he probably can lead you to somebody who does, or lead you in the best direction of like, what's a good area that he's been to that has helped you, like for whether it's industrial or storage facilities, multifamily, different groups that he could be part of. So connect with him. I put your stuff on here, Ryan, I have Ryan at kingdomcre.us.
Yeah, and then I'm on traveling, commercial, finance guy,
cool,
multifamily, commercial investing, 5 units or more. So a couple other things on there because I got maxed out, but you can reach me by email, phone, or Facebook.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for this awesome podcast, guys. I really do appreciate Ryan coming on here because I feel like I took some notes while you're talking and I'm like, I need to do this like now. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Ryan.